Hello students, a very good evening to all of you. Welcome to my channel. This is a very important class on Indian English Literature part 4, and today we will talk about two other writers from early Indian English literature, that is Sri Aurobindo Ghosh and P.M. Malabar. But before starting, I want to give you a brief introduction about myself. My name is Srishti Mukherjee. I have qualified NTA UGC NET exam in English literature 4 times and have also qualified West Bengal SET examination. I have 2 years of teaching experience. Moreover, I have also taught in NPTEL online course from IIT Madras 3 times. So that is all about myself. Good evening, Rajkishore. Good evening, English Net. Good evening, Nazreen. Welcome. This is the link of my Telegram channel. So those of you who have not joined yet, please join to get notification of all important classes. And also please don't forget to like, share and subscribe my YouTube channel so that many more new learners can join. And these are the timings of the classes. Monday to Friday at 8:30 p.m. Saturday, Sunday off. So don't forget to join me live. Please subscribe the channel and press the bell icon to get notification. Okay, so let's start. We will start today's class with Sri Aurobindo Ghosh. So we are discussing early Indian writers. We have covered some of the important poets in the previous two classes, and today we will start with Sri Aurobindo. So Sri Aurobindo Ghosh, his timeline is 1872 to 1950, and you all know he is mainly famous as a great reformer, social reformer, and also a freedom fighter. He was associated with the मूवमेंट द फ्रीडम मूवमेंट ऑफ इंडिया तो बहुत ही उन्होंने काम किया था यंग पीपल को इन्वॉल्व करने के लिए इन दिस पर्टिकुलर फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल ही वाज मेनली फेमस फॉर दैट but he was also a great writer. We will talk about his writing career too. So let's start. Sri Aurobindo 1872 to 1950 is his timeline. He was born on 15th August 1872 in Calcutta. Good evening, Shushmita. Welcome. He studied for ICS exam in Cambridge. He went abroad for higher studies and he was involved in Indian freedom struggle also. He was the founder of Anushilan Samiti. You all know it was a particular organization which was founded by Sri Aurobindo to teach the young people to make bombs and other weapons to fight against British. Okay, so that was named as Anushilan Samiti. He was the founder of that and he was the younger brother of Manmohan Ghosh. So that is why he was an important person, and Manmohan Ghosh we have already discussed about him in the last class. So he was the younger brother of Manmohan Ghosh. Now he escaped to Pondicherry after getting released from jail. He was imprisoned due to all these kind of anti-government activities at that time, and he was actually inspiring those people, those young people, to fight against the Britishers in a violent way. Sashastro Biplobi Andolon, which we call in history. So he was the supporter of that, and that is why he had to spend many times in jail. So he escaped to Pondicherry after getting released from jail, and Sri Aurobindo Ashram was established in 1926 in Pondicherry to commemorate his visit. And Aurobindo was not only a poet, but he was also famous as a journalist. He edited so many important journals like Arya, Vande Mataram, Karma Yogi. These are the major journals edited by him. Both in Bengali and English, he edited these journals. And he wrote songs to Mirtila, published in 1898, which is actually his early collection of verse. His early collection of verse, Songs to Mirtila, 1898, in 1898 it was published. Okay, so that is about his biographical details and early works. Now we move to his major two works. One is Life Divine and another is Savitri. Two very important work, we will talk about that. First of all, The Life Divine, published in 1919. It's a very complex work but very beautifully written philosophical work written by him. And Life Divine is very famous, very important prose piece. Obviously it is a philosophical prose work. So we will talk about Life Divine in detail, published in 1919. It was his principal philosophical work, and it was a great work, a massive work in that sense. More than 1,000 pages are there in this particular book. So basically, here Aurobindo is trying to establish his own philosophical ideas. He is trying to establish the fact that man's highest aim is the manifestation of divine in himself and the realization of God within and without. So the success of human life is in the fact that when you realize the presence of God, when you realize the existence of God within yourself. So that is very important, the manifestation of the divine in himself and the realization of God within and without. So very importantly, this is the main point of Life Divine. Now it is divided into three main section and two volumes. दो वॉल्यूम है, तीन सेक्शन है. तो फर्स्ट वॉल्यूम का नाम है ओमनीप्रेजेंट रियलिटी एंड द यूनिवर्स, वॉल्यूम 1. द इनफाइनाइट कॉन्शियसनेस एंड द इग्नोरेंस, वॉल्यूम 2. एंड द नॉलेज एंड द स्पिरिचुअल रेवोल्यूशन, वॉल्यूम 2 पार्ट 2. तो वॉल्यूम 2 का दो पार्ट है, वॉल्यूम 1 एक ही है. तो टाइटल को बस याद रखना, इसका डिटेल समरी बताना बहुत मुश्किल है बिकॉज इट्स अ वेरी डिफिकल्ट एंड कॉम्प्लेक्स वर्क. तो समरी से क्वेश्चन नहीं आते हैं, बस जस्ट द मेन आइडिया यू नीड टू रिमेम्बर. ओके, तो और क्या बता रहे हैं ऑरोबिंदो इज ट्राइंग टू से दैट हाउ द डिसेंट फ्रॉम इनफाइनाइट कॉन्शियसनेस to the ignorance has come about and how spiritual revelation has to proceed. So totally, the total philosophical work is talking about spirituality. First of all, he is trying to say omnipresent reality and the universe, which means ki how human beings can realize the presence of God within themselves. एंड सेकेंड वॉल्यूम में वो डिस्कस कर रहे हैं कि इनफाइनाइट कॉन्शियसनेस जो हम कहते हैं, विच मीन्स द एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आइडिया और द प्रेजेंस ऑफ गॉड और द एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आइडिया ऑफ पनिशमेंट एंड सैल्वेशन, जो हर रिलीजियन में बताए जाते हैं इन डिफरेंट वे, बट द आइडिया इज सेम, पनिशमेंट एंड सैल्वेशन. तो दीज आर पार्ट ऑफ इनफाइनाइट कॉन्शियसनेस. Your consciousness reach at a particular time when you feel the presence of God. So that is a particular point, infinite consciousness. So it was a journey from infinite consciousness to ignorance, or the ignorance from infinite consciousness that happened, and how the spiritual revelation finally take place. So what is spiritual revelation? How can you realize spirituality? How can you discover spirituality within yourself? So that is a part of attaining moksha. Okay, attaining moksha or nirvana, which Gautam Buddha had also received. So he realized spirituality within himself, right? So that is what Aurobindo is saying, that it is that sublime moment, that particular moment of ecstatic pleasure when you feel that God is always with you, and you can realize what is spirituality, the abstract concept, what is spirituality, how you can emerge, how you can involve yourself in a spiritual journey, and how you can get spiritual satisfaction or salvation. तो ये सारे के सारे चीजें हैं लाइफ डिवाइन के अंदर. सो इट्स अ वेरी कॉम्प्लेक्स एंड एब्स्ट्रैक्ट वर्क रादर एंड डीपली फिलोसॉफिकल ऑब्वियस. ओके, सो दैट इज अबाउट लाइफ डिवाइन. तो इसके बारे में चार्ल्स मूर ने ये कहा था. चार्ल्स मूर प्रेज्ड दिस वर्क एंड ही सेड दैट दिस वर्क प्रोवाइड्स फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ऑफ आइडियलिज्म एंड स्पिरिचुअलिटी what might be the inevitable synthesis of the wisdom of the east and knowledge of the west. So this work is a brilliant example according to Charles Moore, the combination of east and west, कि west में जो knowledge है उसके साथ east का जो spiritual wisdom है, ठीक है, जिसमें बहुत ही abstract चीजें डिस्कस होती है. तो इन दोनों का एक beautiful combination that is there in this work. And S.K. Mitra said that the last arc in the bridge of thoughts that spans the history of Aryan culture, that is this particular work. So many philosophers, many writers, many British writers also praised this work, The Life Divine by Sri Aurobindo. Okay, so that is about this work. We will move on to next work, which is the most famous poem written by Sri Aurobindo. Savitri subtitle याद रखना, बहुत बार क्वेश्चन में आते हैं. A legend and a symbol. Savitri, a legend and a symbol, published in 1940. Okay, so Savitri, from the title itself, you can understand it is talking about the Indian mythical story of Shottoban and Savitri. That is the main plot. So Savitri, it is an epic of 23,813 lines. It's a very big work divided into 12 books in the same pattern like Paradise Lost, and 49 cantos. Aurobindo worked for 50 years for this poem. 50 साल लगा था इसको लिखने के लिए. Good evening, welcome. We should die. Okay, so epic of 23,830 lines in 12 books and 49 cantos. And this poem is described as a sort of poetic philosophy. This is also philosophical, but it is written in the form of poetry. So, poetic philosophy of the spirit and of life, and an experiment in mystic poetry, spiritual poetry cast into a symbolic figure. So spiritualism described in a symbolical manner. Symbolical why? Because यहाँ पर जो story बताया गया है, that is a legendary story of Savitri and Shottoban, and finally it asserts that kind of a spiritual order or spiritual presence that finally God compels to bring back life to Shottoban, and that is how Savitri emerges as an ideal wife beside Sita, Damayanti, and Draupadi. Right. So this is about this part. That is the main plot of the story of the poem. So it is a symbolic expression of his own philosophy of man's realization of the life divine on this earth. And it is a retold version of the well-known myth of Shottoban and Savitri as narrated in the Mahabharata. It is also in Mahabharata and also in other legendary story books. It was written in iambic blank verse, so Aurobindo was greatly inspired by Miltonic blank verse. That is why he adopted this. And now Savitri को बताया गया है, Savitri is the divine word, the daughter of the sun who is born to save. So the name Savitri means who is born to save, who is a savior, who is a protector, and who is a kind of mm, rescuer from the danger, who is born to save. Okay, so Savitri means he is born, sorry, she is born to save. Shottoban is the soul carrying the divine truth of being within himself. So Shottoban को बताया गया है, he is the ideal man, he is the soul carrying the divine truth of being within himself, which means he is such a man, Shottoban is such a man who is carrying the Satya or the truth inside him. And he is also a great believer in God. So that is why he is an honest and divine personality. Savitri and Shottoban. Now there is another character of Ashwapati. Ashwapati is the energy of spiritual endeavor that helps man to rise from mortal to immortal plane. So he is a saint-like character, Ashwapati, and he is that spiritual energy which encourages Savitri and Shottoban to go ahead in their life. And it is a kind, Ashwapati is a kind of combination, or you may say he forms a kind of bridge between mortal and immortal planes. Um, Good evening, DK Jha, welcome. PDF notes, generally I do not provide, but in the cases of MCQs and PYQs, sometimes I will send PDFs in groups. Okay, so that helps man to rise from mortal to immortal planes. Now the poem begins in medias res. You all know this is the basic thing, the basic feature of any epic poetry, that the poem starts in the middle of the action. तो यहाँ पर भी वही है, starts in medias res, and the first part talks about Ashwapati's spiritual quest, and the second part talks about Savitri's birth, her upbringing, her marriage with Shottoban, knowing that he is doomed to death. So yes, Shottoban is doomed to death. Savitri knows this, and finally Savitri fights hard to get back his life. So the third part talks about the struggle between Savitri and death, and how Savitri wins the life of her husband from the hands of Jamraj. So that is the main plot. So तीन part में divided है, and it was described. ये अक्सर कहा जाता है, Savitri was an attempt to catch something of the Upanishadic and Kalidasian movement so far as that possible in English. So Savitri is described as a combination of Upanishad and Kalidas's spirit or Kalidas's writing style in English literature. So it's a great poem and a massive work of Sri Aurobindo Ghosh. Okay, so this is actually the main work. इन दोनों वर्क से ही आपका क्वेश्चन बनता है, Life Divine and Savitri. So please read the detailed summaries of these works and the associated details. Now उनके कुछ other poems हैं जिसका बस आप नाम याद रखो. Urvashi is a poem in 1500 lines in blank verse and 4 cantos. It is talking about the retold version of the love story of Pururava and Urvashi. So Pururava and Urvashi, that was also a famous Sanskrit story. तो उसी को वो नरेट कर रहे हैं इन द पोएम एंड ही हैज आल्सो रिटन अ प्ले कॉल्ड विक्रमोर्वशीय no, he has not written the play. It is a Vikramaborshio is by Kalidas. So Kalidas's play Vikramaborshio has these two characters Pururava and Urvashi. So Aurobindo is narrating their love story in this particular poem. Another is Love and Death, which is the collection of, which is actually a single poem, not a collection, single poem about 1100 lines in blank verse based on the Greek myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. So these are the minor details. कौन सी वर्क किसके ऊपर बेस है, बस आप ये याद रखना, इससे डिटेल में क्वेश्चन नहीं आते हैं. Another work is Baji Prabhu, which is talking about the Maratha Emperor Shivaji's life story, the great heroic character. You have heard him, you have read about him in your history books. So it is talking about the heroic self-sacrifice of Baji Prabhu Deshpande, and Baji Prabhu sacrificed his life for Shivaji. So Shivaji's most benevolent and मोस्ट फेथफुल एसोसिएट दैट इज बाजी प्रभु, तो इसके ऊपर बेस्ड है. Other poems are Ohana, the Rishi, and Arabian Romance, etc. He has also written some plays like Rodogun, Eric, Hero, and the Nymph. These are some of the plays written by him. So he was not only a poet but also a playwright. तो इतने सारे works हैं उनका, but दोनों work सबसे famous है. One is Life Divine, another is Savitri. Okay. So that is about Sri Aurobindo. Now we move on to अच्छा और भी कुछ वर्क्स है उनका जो कि है the synthesis of yoga. He was a great believer of yoga. Sri Aurobindo was a great believer of yoga and he believed that all life is yoga. Okay, so ये जो वर्क है the synthesis of yoga, that actually has this tagline, all life is yoga. Okay, the evolution of human culture from symbolic to rationalism, that is described in the work The Human Cycle. Another work is The Ideal of Human Unity, which is actually the evolution of political aggregates. So very important and interesting themes है उनके works में. ठीक है, so these are the major works of Sri Aurobindo Ghosh. Now we move on to the next and last writer of today's class, that is B.M. Malabari, 1853 to 1912. He is basically a prose writer, early prose writer of Indian age, that is B.M. Malabari, 1853 to 1912. This is the image of Malabari, you can see. Okay, so B.M. Malabari, his full name was Behramji Merwanji Malabari. So actually he was a Gujarati man. He was born on 18th May 1853 in Vadodara, Gujarat. His father died when he was 6 or 7. At a very young age his father died. He was educated at Presbyterian Mission School. And ये जो उनके नाम है Behramji Merwanji Malabari, so that was actually taken from a person who adopted him. So after the death of his father, actually, his mother remarries a man called Merwanji Nanabai Malabari. तो उनके नाम से इस पर्सन का नाम होता है, B.M. मालाबारी का नाम होता है बेहरामजी मेरवानजी मालाबारी. ओके, so he is mainly famous for his first poetic work जिसका टाइटल है The Indian Muse in English Garb, published in 1876. Indian Muse in English Garb. Okay, acha. So basically Indian Muse in English Garb, it is a collection of 32 poems and it was the first book of the Parsi poet. So he was from Parsi lineage actually. He was a Gujarati and he was from Parsi lineage. So it was the first book written by a Parsi poet, that is why important. So Indian Muse in English Garb, the title is very interesting. So it opens during the Victorian age of British England. Opens with the verses praising Queen Victoria, Prince of Wales, जो भी famous monarch है British society में, उनको praise किया जा रहे हैं, ठीक है? So that is how the poem goes on. Now another works are the Indian Eye on English or Rambles of a Pilgrim Reformer. तो इसका ये सबटाइटल है, याद रखना, द इंडियन आई ऑन इंग्लिश विच इज सबटाइटल्ड एज रैम्बल्स ऑफ ए पिलग्रिम रिफॉर्मर, पब्लिश्ड इन 1893. बेसिकली इट इज अ ट्रैवलॉग, इट इज एन अकाउंट ऑफ हिज 3 विजिट्स टू इंग्लैंड. तो ट्रैवलॉग और यू में से ट्रैवल एक्सपीरियंस, ओके, ट्रैवलॉग और ट्रैवल एक्सपीरियंस, ठीक है, जो बताया गया है इस वर्क में. बस मालाबारी के ज्यादा वर्क्स इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है, देयर आर वेरी few works which you just need to remember the title and the basic details. जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, Indian Muse in English Garb, it is a collection of 32 poems and it is the first book of the Parsi poet and इसमें प्रेस किया जाते हैं विक्टोरिया, प्रिंस ऑफ वेल्स इनको. तो इस टाइप का क्वेश्चन आ सकता है कि इन विच इंडियन इंग्लिश पोएम वी फाइंड प्रेजिंग ऑफ क्वीन विक्टोरिया और प्रेजिंग ऑफ द विक्टोरियन एज इन इंग्लैंड. तो उसका आंसर होगा इंडियन म्यूज इन इंग्लिश गार्ब. सो दिस काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चंस मे कम. So that is why I am telling you all these writers, because they are minor writers and we often overlook them, but they are not so unimportant. ठीक है, कुछ चीजें जरूर इंपॉर्टेंट है. हम इंडियन पोएट्री पढ़ने स्टार्ट करते हैं फ्रॉम जयंत महापात्र, फ्रॉम कमला दास, फ्रॉम निजिम एजिकियल, बट दे आर द माइनर पोएट्स जिससे आपका क्वेश्चन जरूर बन सकता है. वी ऑफन ओवरलुक देम, but I will suggest don't overlook them, just read some of the basic details. बहुत ही स्मॉल डिटेल्स है, मैं भी देखो छोटे छोटे क्लास ले रही हूँ आपके लिए ताकि आपको याद रहे सारी चीजें. तो यस, इंडियन आई ऑन इंग्लिश, इट इज अ काइंड ऑफ ट्रैवलॉग और द अकाउंट ऑफ हिज 3 विजिट्स टू इंग्लैंड. अच्छा, नेक्स्ट है गुजरात एंड गुजरातीज, published in 1881. It is an autobiographical prose work, so remember that, autobiographical prose work and satirical in nature. ठीक है, तो इसका एक लंबा सबटाइटल है पिक्चर्स ऑफ मेन एंड मैनर्स टेकन फ्रॉम लाइफ. ओके, सो गुजरात एंड गुजरातीज, इट इज एन ऑटोबायोग्राफिकल सैटारिकल प्रोज वर्क. Okay, and he was also the editor of a magazine of a journal called Indian Spectator. ठीक है, इसमें इसके लिए भी वो बहुत फेमस है. अदरवाइज he has written some, he has founded some major journals which is based on patriotism like the Indian Patriot, the Voice of India, East and West, etc. तो इंडियन स्पेक्टेटर जो जर्नल उन्होंने स्टार्ट किया था, इट इज फाइनली मर्ज्ड विथ वॉइस ऑफ इंडिया. ओके, तो ये दोनों एक ही जर्नल बन गया था आफ्टर अ फ्यू इयर्स. इंडियन स्पेक्टेटर एंड वॉइस ऑफ इंडिया मिलकर एक जर्नल बना था, ठीक है, बट इंडिविजुअली दोज वर पब्लिश्ड सेपरेटली. इंडियन पेट्रियट, वॉइस ऑफ इंडिया, ईस्ट एंड वेस्ट, इंडियन स्पेक्टेटर, 4 अलग अलग जर्नल्स थे, ठीक है. गुड इवनिंग ऋषभ. तो और क्या है, ही इज ऑल्सो रिमेम्बर्ड एज ए सोशल रिफॉर्मर. सो मैक्सिमम जो राइटर है अर्ली इंडियन इंग्लिश पीरियड में, मैक्सिमम राइटर फेमस है एज ए सोशल रिफॉर्मर, राइट. तो क्यों वो सोशल रिफॉर्मर के लिए फेमस है? ही हैज प्रोटेस्टेड ऑन इन्फेंट मैरिज विच फाइनली विद्यासागर abolished it, बाल्य विवाह. So notes on infant marriage and enforced widowhood, that is his famous treatise. That is why he is known as a social reformer, published in 1884. Nature triumphs over caste, the stages of Hindu female life. So he basically talked about the life of the females in Indian society, and he also protested against child marriage or infant marriage, which finally results into the destruction of childhood of a girl, and finally she is subjected to widowhood. So he protested against that. He also wrote travelogues in the manner of Mark Twain, so greatly inspired by the American writer Mark Twain. Okay, and he also wrote a poem in heroic couplet that was a sketch. Okay, so these are basically the major works written by him. Okay, these are basically the major works. These are basically the major works written by him. So yes, that is about today's class on Sri Aurobindo and V.M. Malabari. So please, this is the link of my Telegram channel. Those of you who have not joined yet, please join to get notification of all important classes. So tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. we will go back again to our paper one session. So tomorrow we will talk about research aptitude first part. We have already completed teaching aptitude. So tomorrow we will talk about research aptitude. Okay. So don't forget to join me live. Please subscribe the channel and press the bell icon to get notification. Okay, so thank you all. Bye bye everyone. Good night. See you all tomorrow at 8:30 p.m.